I want to leave you with 3 key messages. I'm not those guys who want to surprise you. So these are the 3 key messages. You can write them down. The 3 things that I want you to take away from today. Number 1, marriage is an experience. Marriage is an experience. And the depth of intimacy is the currency for that experience. Number 2, money cannot buy love, but financial success enhances love. Money cannot buy love, but financial success enhances love. Number 3, financial rest is part of God's design for marriage. Financial success is part of God's design for marriage. So we'll tackle one by one. We start with marriage is an experience, and the depth of intimacy is your currency. So as you have seen, marriage is not about the number of years. It's about the depth of your connection. It's about the depth of your intimacy. How one are you guys? I don't know. Many couples, they pride themselves. I've been married for 20 years. We've been married for 20 years. We've been married for 30 years. We've been married for 5 years. But what's the quality of that marriage? One of my pastors who has worked with me throughout for a long time, he called me and he told me something that will remain forever in my mind. He said, Pius, you may say that you were only married for 12 years, but you had an experience for 60 years. Have you understood that? There are couples who are married for 1 year, but the richness of the experience is only equivalent to another couple that have lived together for 10 years. It's how much price are you willing to pay for that intimacy? Okay? So, I've been wondering as I reflect on my life with Joyce, do I really want to pride myself for being married for 20 years, for 10 years? And I'm like, God, I want both. I want our marriage to stay as young as possible, as fresh as possible, every day. I want to keep that, to preserve that feeling, that connection that you initially had for as long as possible. Unless you balance these two, then you will only be doing time, but not quality. Are we together? Speaking to someone, eh? So, first-class marriage experience is built on depth of intimacy. Not on time. Not on time. When that expiry date comes, you'll be like, it came too soon. Even if you are together for 50 years, for 90 years. Because the quality was so rich, yeah, that you didn't even realize the passage of time. Let me tell you something that shocked me. A very close friend of mine came, let me not call him a close friend of mine, but someone that I see very frequently, who had seen my life before and now seeing me in my singlehood. He told me something very interesting. He said, I don't understand God. Why would he take your wife or someone who was a very good wife and leave others with very bad wives? Then he paraphrased it for me, and then I understood him. He said, why would God give you a second chance and not give me a second chance? Isn't that deep? Yeah? I don't even know whether that is economy experience. That is cargo experience. Yeah? So, but these guys have been married for a long time. They have children who are going to high school. But he was like, Pius, I wish I could exchange places with you. Why? It's because of the quality of investment. These people are no longer investing in each other. They are actually drawing from each other. They are drawing. They are just drawing from each other. There is nothing more. They're like, we are done. When will this plane land? This plane just needs to land. We move on. Have you noticed the guys in first class, you don't even see them exiting? Isn't it? Eh? But the guys in economy, you can't even see the door, exit door. They are crowded. So once again, the question that we are all reflecting on today, what kind of experience are you having in your marriage? Or maybe I put it better, are you experiencing first-class marriage? So, there are 5 dimensions of intimacy that I want to talk about. Number 1 is spiritual intimacy. Spiritual intimacy. We are all church-based here, isn't it? Eh? You know, the Bible says that 2 shall become one. So the question is, how do 2 become 1? Someone said, if you marry somebody who is 29 years, you've married 29 years of experience. How do you change 29 years of experience? 29 is actually good nowadays, isn't it? Eh? Yeah? Now we are marrying in our 30s, and so you're marrying somebody who has had who has lived a single life, yeah, for 38 years, for 40 years, some even 50. How do two become one? And the simple solution is, the more I grow in God, the more my intimacy with God, yeah, the more I become one with God, and the more my wife becomes one with God, yeah, the more we become one. So marriage, real marriage, is not between two people. Real marriage is between a man, woman, and God. If you remove God, it's a contract. If you put God, it's a covenant. Are you together? Unless God is in your marriage, you will never know the depths of intimacy. One of the big things that surprised me is how Joyce and I are spiritually connected. We are in different locations, and God speaks to me about something, and God speaks to her about the same thing. And then when we talk, we're like, oh my God. The more I grow in God, and the more Joyce grows in God, the more we become one. So, are you seeking God together? Are you praying together? Are you worshiping together? You know, there are people, women have an affinity for faith and religion more than men somehow. Just observation, eh? And when the man does not rise up as a priest, the woman looks for that spiritual leadership somewhere else. Yeah? And now there are people, their wives come and tell them, my pastor said. And because my pastor said, now we must do. Is there something wrong with that? Yes. Very wrong, isn't it? Eh? Because this lady and her pastor are more spiritually connected than herself and her. That marriage is already failing. Spiritual intimacy, I have put it there as number one. Unless God is in that marriage, you can never truly experience the depth of intimacy. You will never touch first-class experience. It's obvious. Because he's the only one. Are you husband and wife?
Yes.
He's the only one who can make you and her to be one. You are spiritually aligned. You know, it is very scary when you meet somebody who is spiritually aligned with you, other than your spouse, eh? Because they can anticipate you. They can predict you. They are ahead of you. That's where you want your spouse to be. That is a sacred place for your spouse. So, number one is spiritual intimacy. You must seek spiritual intimacy together. You must talk about God. What is God saying to you? One of my daily things to do as a husband is to tell my wife what God has spoken to me. Hiyo ni yangu tu. I have not demanded it from her, but from my devotion, prayer every day, when God has a word for me, for our family, I come and tell her. This is where we are. this is what God is saying. And the more I share, and the more she shares, and then we start seeing, oh my gosh, this is what God said, and now look at it's happened. When things start to pass, you get into depths that you cannot describe. Spiritual? Intimacy.